This week's Torah portion begins with the death of Sarah, the Jewish people's first matriarch and the mother of 1,000 generations of Jews. Sarah's death is reported at the very beginning of the portion, which then proceeds briskly and unpretentiously into a description of Abraham's preparations for his wife's burial proceedings. The text moves so quickly into the logistical details of Sarah's tomb acquisition that most readers never notice a small detail in the way the story is written. Actually, almost everybody misses it unless you happen to be reading the Hebrew text out of the Torah scroll where it is handwritten. Because what I'm talking about is a small calligraphic peculiarity about the way a Torah scribe writes one specific letter in this Torah portion. Genesis 23:2 says, "V'yavo Avraham lispod l'Sarah v'livkotah." Abraham mourned for Sarah, and he wept for her. And in that verse, in every Torah scroll in the world, when the sofer, the Torah scribe, handwrites that word v'livkotah, and he wept for her, he writes the middle letter kaf, just a little bit smaller than the other letters of the word. It's been done this way for centuries. Look in any Torah scroll from any period in Jewish history, and you'll see the same thing. That little letter kaf, hovering in space just beneath the shoulders of the bet and tav on either side of it. No one knows why this tradition came about or what spiritual truth it means to point to. And because nobody knows, you'll probably be unsurprised to hear that there are dozens of interpretations about that tiny kaf and why it's written that way and what it's supposed to mean. I want to share the one that was taught by Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch, who lived and wrote in Germany in the 19th century, and who's today considered to be the father of the modern Orthodox movement. It's an important principle in the field of Jewish intellectual ethics that when you're sharing something you've learned from another person, you must acknowledge the person who taught it to you. So this teaching from Rabbi Hirsch wasn't something I learned because I'm a great scholar of 19th century German Orthodoxy. I learned it because Rabbi Walter taught it to me. He included it in the lesson he prepared for his Genesis class when they studied Shabbat Chayei Sarah. And so I want to present this teaching tonight in his name and in his memory. When Rabbi Hirsch was asked about the meaning of the tradition of writing one letter smaller than the others in that word, v'livkotah, he wept for her, Rabbi Hirsch taught this. When a person is in mourning, no matter how loud or expressive their grief may be on the outside, every grieving heart has a quiet core. We might weep and we might shout at other people, but there is always an element of mourning that is smaller and more private. A quiet trembling that remains hidden in a tiny, closed chamber of sacred seclusion. This has been a hard week. After we learned about Rabbi Walter's death a few days ago, some of us spent quite a lot of time holed up in those quiet cloisters of grief. Others ventured out to be with other people, telling stories and sharing memories and holding each other up with tenderness and care. The acts of love we offer in the face of death may sometimes feel insignificant, but they are vitally important, and they are holy. Each of them our own tiny handwritten letter, jostling for space in the long and painful sentence written by an overwhelming week. And so, Shabbat Chayei Sarah, and so the surprising gentleness with which it greets us. This whole portion is far less about Sarah than it is about Abraham, our forefather, the father of multitudes, whom we now come to see in an entirely new way, as a bereaved husband who loved his dead wife deeply and who's taught us a deep and enduring lesson about what we do for the people we cherish after they are gone. The Torah is notoriously stingy with its prose. It treats adjectives and adverbs as unnecessary expenditures, preferring an unadorned austerity in its language. Torah's writing style is clipped and terse, leaving plenty to the imagination and to the whims of commentary and interpretation. But this week, in a show of wild linguistic extravagance, the Torah devotes 20 whole verses to Abraham's real estate negotiations over the plot of land he wishes to buy for Sarah's tomb. 20 verses, a scandalously long passage devoted to the back and forth haggling over square footage and frontage easements. It is so mundane that it seems almost offensive. But the rabbis understood that what's important in this scene is not the details of the business transaction, but about what's transpiring beneath the surface in that small, private chamber where Abraham's grief lives. They taught us that what seems to be an elaborate conversation about terms and payments and contracts is actually an act of deepest devotion. Abraham wasn't just securing a place for Sarah's burial. He was securing a place for his love, a place where memory can live. The plot he buys is a place called the Cave of Machpelah. However you're picturing that cave right now, I assure you, it's much more plain than whatever you're imagining. The cave was not an ornate mausoleum decorated elaborately to commemorate the burial place of the Jewish people's first family. When Sarah's buried there, her family didn't adorn the cave with carved angels or dedication plaques or drape it with flowers. It remained an unremarkable hollow in the rock that would be filled with the humble devotion of memory. But it's called Machpelah. That name, that word, Machpelah, seems to be etymologically tied to the Hebrew word kaful, which means doubled, or multiplied, or folded over. A quiet container where we fold up our memories and allow them to multiply. Jewish tradition does not encourage us to amplify a person's legacy by lavishing their gravesite with ostentatious marble monuments. Instead, we make space for their memory to multiply through the things that we do. The kindnesses we offer, the values we transmit, the Torah we teach in their name. All of these things make possible the doubling and redoubling of their precious memory. In Judaism, memory is a supreme act of love, an expression of selfless compassion, what our tradition calls chesed shel emet, true and authentic, loving kindness. That's what lies at the heart of Abraham's real estate negotiation. What he's shopping for is not just a piece of land, but an enduring, concrete assurance that his love and his memory remain alive, even after his beloved wife is not. It's a remarkable thing for the Torah to deliver us this story this week, when we are united in our mourning after laying our rabbi to his eternal rest. That image of Abraham, steady and persistent and tender all at the same time, reverberates powerfully in this congregation this week, because our rabbi was the kind of person who gave the sort of love that multiplies over time. He cared for so many for so long in so many ways, and he made this congregation a holy place where goodness is nurtured and encouraged to grow. Hopefully the work of our grief and the work of the days beyond will press us towards some clarified answers to the questions posed to us by the passage of time. How will we make our love concrete? How will we make it last? How will we form our memories into a living force that grows and gives? Some of us will do that work through the stories we tell and retell, ones that make us laugh and ones that make us cry. Some of us will do it through deeds of generosity and loving kindness, offering to help those in need, stepping up to volunteer or to give what we have to those who don't, lending our hands to repair a broken world. And some will do it through simple presence, just showing up and being here, in community with the other members of this holy congregation, which means so much to us and which meant the world to our rabbi. At the end of this tender and trying week, that is the invitation extended to us all by Machpelah, by the place where memory is folded and multiplied, the place where the goodness of those we've loved unfolds and unfolds continually in our hearts when we remember them. This too is a place of mystical multiplication, where love continues its clever and uncanny work, even when the person who inspired us is no longer among us. Tonight we're here, all of us together, to welcome Shabbat's rest and replenishment. Some of us are carrying the joy of family simchas. Some of us are carrying loneliness and loss, but for all of us, in that small, private space within, there is a tiny, silent letter written. A letter whose sound reminds us of the value of community and the promise of memory. May we honor those who came before us by multiplying their goodness through our own, and while we live, may the love we offer become a solid and enduring shelter for us, for one another, and for those yet to come. Shabbat Shalom.